You're listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to the new Children's Bookseller Toolbox, a seminar that was presented at Children's Institute 2024 in New Orleans.
My name is Cliff. I'll be moderating this session. These are the experts. They will be giving you the advice. We'll take a second. This is a long session, so buckle in. We're going to take a second to tell you how we got into bookselling, how we've managed to live this long. That's a little pain, but in a thing that feeds us our souls. So I am Cliff Helm. I work at Left Bank Books in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been there for 12 years at this point. I shopped there since I was old enough to have money on my own. And I applied 3 times before they actually hired me. So I'm stuck now. They won't let me leave. I will say I did not ever, I know it's blasphemous, but I never appreciated kids' books. When I was a kid, I didn't read them. When my son was a child, we read Chuck Palahniuk because I was in love. I fell into children's bookselling. No one, I'm sure you all know, no one I worked with could actually go in the children's department. It was the most unloved room in the entire store. And I just, so I saw a place I could mess around. It looked like I was being busy. There was no part of the bookstore that I didn't want to know. I was hubristic. But I then started reading them, and I fell in love, and I had set all of my pretentious tastes to the side and started reading middle grade, which is honestly the best thing that was ever invented. And now here I am with a one-man children's department, and I absolutely adore it. You will have to pry it from my cold dead hands. Please, introduce yourselves. Tell us how you got here.
Hi, I'm Kimi Laughlin, she, her. I work at the Silver Unicorn bookstore in Acton, Massachusetts, and I'm actually the newest bookseller at this table. I didn't start bookselling until January 2021. Previously, I worked in theater in New York, and then lost my job during the pandemic, as one does, and moved back home and begged my local bookstore to take me, so I had something to do, and I fell in love with bookselling, and now it's my career, and this is what I hope to do for the rest of my life. So I kind of naturally fell into children's books. I love just reading in general, and my first bookstore was Buttonwood Books and Toys in Cohasset, Mass, and it was half books and half toys. And so I found myself being asked a lot for children's recommendations, and I had all the books that I read growing up stacked in my head, ready to go. And then once the arc started coming in, I was like, now I'm reading these ones, and I just immediately fell into it. And I've since moved to Silver Unicorn in Acton, which I actually, fun fact, got that job because of a panel at Children's Institute last year, panel on B2B bulk sales, and my current boss, Paul, saw the panel and then reached out to me about maybe I wanted to do this for his store. So you never know. You could have your next job lined up because of this. So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Paul Thomason-Fike, he, him. I work at Square Books Jr. in Oxford, Mississippi. I got my start as a customer as well. Of that very store. I worked for free for ARCs as a child until our insurance told us we couldn't do that. And then as soon as I turned 16, which is our hiring age, I put in an application and was summarily not hired for 6 months. Then finally, when I did get hired, I've been working there ever since. So I've been there about 15 years now. So I've always been in children's books. It's always been the focus of my reading. It's sort of a magical thing. I stay in it because it is awesome to help kids find a book that makes them feel the way that I felt when I was a kid, when I read a book that was like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, and now I'm the buyer and the manager and very busy. I'm going to leave this and go check my emails.
Hey y'all, I'm Molly. The book buyer, event coordinator, and occasional bathroom cleaner at Child's Play in DC. I got my start in books sort of very much by accident, which I think is a lot of people's story. Her story is kids only, but we also do toys, and my previous life, I was a children's swim instructor and worked at a kids museum. So apparently I just was like, I don't know, I guess I like kids. And when I started Child's Play, someone left who was one of the book department managers, and I wanted to make more money, so I went and did it. And then it turned out I loved it and was obsessed with everything and wanted to read all of middle grade all the time.
All right, next on what will you all be doing? What social events are there for children to take advantage of? The book swap dinner, maybe? Are you all going? Did you bring a book? Fantastic.
Cool. I'm gonna go to the reception. I'm excited about the costume party / reception tomorrow night. Thank you, Jen. I'm excited about the costume party reception tonight. Publisher dinners, all that kind of stuff.
Can we go one more slide? They're professionals.
I swear to God.
Here we go.
These are so many things you can do. Booksellers are almost to a T introverts, but feel free to talk to them. Have your card. Just hand your card to someone. Just put it out there. I swear you don't.
Another great thing is, my favorite thing when I became a bookseller was my local NEVA regional district, because we have the Windows and Mirrors Committee, which is a committee for diverse books, and they saw a presentation. I was like, I want to join this. So I submitted an application. It's like maybe I'll be accepted. Turns out they accept everyone. That's okay. We're all friends, and that's how I met all of my best friends in the bookselling industry. So my biggest advice is ask to join Inties Introduce. Ask to join a group or a panel at your local thing. Just make friends and then become book friends. Make friends on Edelweiss. See their reviews and stuff like that, because that's how you start talking about on Windows and Mirrors meetings. We just scream at each other about the books that we love. Who doesn't love that? That's the best thing. So I think we have advice on how to join Inties Introduce. There's an email somewhere in this slide and or on the app. You can say, I'm interested. Sign me up.
Email Jessica. Jessica's fantastic. I did Indeed Introduce, and it was a blast. Also, you feel very cool when just a bunch of manuscripts show up and on top of the desk. All of your coworkers will think you're very cool. And just get involved. Talk to everyone and anyone. Say yes to everything. They will ask you, if you say yes one time, you'll be on a panel every event.
We respect your boundaries, you can say no to us.
But if you say yes, you could be us in 7 years. Doing this every
Really, go to these evening events. It's a big thing. And I think for my first children's, I did not do that because I was that sounds like a party, and I don't go to parties. And I'm telling you, it's a room full of people who don't go to parties a lot of the time. And there will be the 8 people who do, and they will come talk to you, and they'll be like, "What's your name?" They will pull you out of it if you just go.
Now there's feedback. We'll get this right eventually.
Yeah. The recording is going to be wonderful.
Yeah. And if there's someone you saw on a panel and you have a question, stop them and talk to them. They're so excited that they got to be an expert on something that it is generally very, it's very flattering when someone's like, I have a question about what you were talking about. And you're like, okay, I know something, I think. No one's gonna think you're weird because everyone here is weird.
And at almost every panel you go to, I believe there will be contact information for the people in the panel, in the slides that are in the app. So if you somebody says something that you're like, I have to know what you meant by that, or you have to expand on that for me, you can email them. You may not respond immediately, but you can email them, and maybe email them twice if they don't answer right away.
We're very busy. Also, meeting one person is the key to meeting other people that they know. You come up to me, you're going to meet everyone up to Massachusetts that's here. We move in hordes.
All right, now we get into the nitty-gritty. And if you have any question at any time, just stick your hand up, interrupt me. We're here to help you, and we only want to do it in a way that actually helps you. If you need clarification on anything, please ask for it, stick your hand up, or lean over to your new buddy, CK now. All of this stuff, once again, is on our presentation is linked in the app. You can find it with all of the stuff in it. And also, I'm very willing to walk you through any of it after this. Let's start with reading levels. Who's best at reading levels?
Okay.
Hello.
You volunteered.
Okay, so one of the things that people often struggle with in children's book selling is someone says, I need a book for a 2-year-old, and you don't know what that means. Because what you give a 2-year-old is drastically different than what you give a 6-year-old, hopefully. So this graphic is sort of the spectrum. Every kid is a unique snowflake and will have slightly different levels and different capabilities. But what you want to keep in mind when you're talking your youngest readers, so if they're under 3 months, they can't really see anything and you're reading to them for vibes. This is so that they hear you and have positive associations with the grown-ups around them. High contrast things are easier for them to see, so all of those black and white books are great at that level because they can actually see them, and babies at that age will just stare at those books. As they get a little bit older, they're going to, you can start introducing color. In publishing, they tend to do red first and then other colors because there is research that says that they see red before they see other colors. As they get older, you're going to start seeing things that have short rhymes, pictures of animals, lots of interesting sounds. A 6-month to a 1-year-old are going to make all sorts of weird sounds, and they love when you moo at them. That's why Sandra Boynton is so great. As they get a little bit older, you're going to keep going up and up and up. Stories are going to get longer. As around 2, they can usually start to actually handle a story that has a plot of some sort, generally a really simple one for a 2-year-old. And then you sort of continue on. A good sort of rule of thumb that you will break constantly, if you're very unsure and don't know, is to start looking at how many sentences per spread there are, and it should be roughly equal to their age. So a 3-year-old can generally handle up to 3 sentences per spread. A 4-year-old 4, a 5-year-old 5. You'll break that rule all the time, but it's a good place to start if you're just sort of I have no idea where I am. It's a good thing to ground yourself in. Does someone want to talk about early learning? That period? I can keep going.
So I'll ask, do any of you actually use Lexile levels when you are selling books to kids or parents?
Only when they're brought to me as, so in my region it's accelerated reader instead of Lexile, but I would only reference accelerated reader when they have already said, my child needs a book and their level is X. And then I will, I sort of one of the tools that I've learned is that there are some big series that I kind of know the levels on now. I know what the Lexile or AR level of Magic Treehouse is, and I know what the Lexile AR of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and stuff like that I can kind of use to be well, what are they reading? Are they reading these? And now I know oh, okay, they're actually, even though you said their range is a 3 to a 5.7, I know really they're reading this, right? But that's the only time I reference that as a sales tool, personally.
I don't know the levels. I ask them what they last read that they really liked or what they last read they didn't like, and I go from there based on what I know the books are, which is probably not the most professional way to go about it, but it works really well for me.
We don't actively use them, but parents do bring them up a lot. We also, guided reading is more common in our area. But I will say, if a parent ever comes to you and is I need a high Lexile level book for my kid, just hand them Wimpy Kid because it has the same Lexile level as Sherlock Holmes. And don't let styles.
And say that.
Wild. But it's important to know that these tools are not designed for reading selection for kids or parents or booksellers. They're designed as a tool for teachers to help them understand where a child is and where they might need some help or where they may be advanced, whatever. So we tend to do a sort of like, it's great that the teacher told you this information about your kid. It's good to know where they're at, but also your kid having agency in what they read is so much more important than them having like the correct level.
Yeah.
We're talking about agency and, you know.
Sorry, 1 second. I want to get a mic to you. Or
Actually, yeah.
I see, okay, so now that changes the whole. I guess I'm a good So,
don't ever.
okay, so agency and levels of reading, right? Like, I come from a semi-academic area where I actually carried out graphic novels because one of my kids was like a production reader, and there's so much good stuff out there. Like, I remember when we kid, I threw some of our old books in a basket, and they have been flying off from the basket. So now I got more of those. But kids, they want those books, parents don't want to buy them. So what do you do about that?
We're going to talk about hand selling later, but we can address this sort of simply here. I'm team kid. If it comes down to picking between what the parent wants and what the kid wants, I'll talk the parent into what the kid wants. Because at the end of the day, what creates lifelong readers is enjoying books, not whether or not they are good at it.
But on that note, that's why familiarizing yourself with those levels and being able to say things, fun little things like, oh, this Diary of a Wimpy Kid book has the same lifestyle level as Sherlock Holmes is a great tool for a parent who is otherwise very reluctant. I love to show them Jerry Craft's Newbery-winning graphic novel because I get to be like, look, it won a book award. Like, it is a book. And then that is where those things can be helpful, is if you can say, this does actually have a reading level of this. I can reference a thing that they're interested in already. They're already talking about accelerated reader or lifestyle. I can say, well, he's showing interest in this, and it falls into the categories that you gave for these things. And that can be helpful sometimes.
I always use the excuse that kids need visual literacy these days too, with like everything, like watching TV, watching movies, everything on their phones and their apps, everything's visual nowadays. Reading a graphic novel gives you more than just literacy. You're literally learning how to judge emotion and plot and like nuances through pictures.
Agreed. I will also say, before we move on, I also do not know anything with lifestyle levels. I pretend I do when I'm talking to teachers and make it legit. I can perform enthusiasm really well, and if I can get a kid excited about a book, I guarantee they're leaving with that book. Publisher relationships. Who wants to start? What are the differences? What past relationships can one have to a publisher?
Well, you're at a great place to start forming publisher relationships right now. You'll see people who have publisher tags, and you should not be afraid to introduce yourself to them. They might be excited. They might tell you something about your story you didn't know, a thing that used to happen to me all the time. So this is a great place to meet them and introduce yourself in an environment where they are like prepped for that.
And they want you, they need you. You have the upper hand in this relationship. And just talk to them. They are all, here, they're all kind. They're all great. And, ask your questions. This is when you have access to them. You will never, have as much access to them as you do when you are at this, at Children's Institute.
And outside of Children's Institute, so like I said, I'm a fairly new bookseller, and this all depends on like your store and how it runs, but the best thing is like reading and writing reviews. Like on Edelweiss, every book that you read, you heart it if you loved it, you don't want to write anything. You write a little sentence, you do something, because that's how your reps and your publishers notice you. That's how they're going to send you more stuff. You meet someone in person, you realize that's the rep that you've seen out of your corner of your eye, whatever, and they're going to be like, hey, oh wait, you just read that book that I really love. And then you can start talking about it, and that's how you form a relationship. I even write reviews for like backlist stuff that I read, and I had a publisher literally email being like, that's my favorite book ever. I can't believe you just read that. And that was fun, so.
Yeah, I will say at our store, we are very communicative with our reps. And when we get a new employee, we send an email to say, hey, we just hired so-and-so. These are the genres they read, or these are the books that they like, so that they know to send to our store books that we will love and that won't just sit on our art shelf. Reach out to them, get their cards, send them emails. How do we deal with, I don't know, maybe a gatekeeping buyer? Or how does one, as a frontline bookseller, develop a relationship with a publisher or with a rep?
I think that one of the big things is to learn how your buyer communicates best, and you're like the people in your store too. Like if something might feel like gatekeeping, and it might be as simple as like you have a forgetful person on your team, right? Like that they might need an email rather than a conversation. So that can be a huge thing, is just communicate with your buyer and be like, hey, I'm been reading a lot of ARCs, but I'm not seeing as many ARCs from this publisher. Like, can I talk to them and tell them I'm really interested in these kind of authors and that kind of thing? Like, I think communication is the most important part of that.
And I think making sure that you remember that you're representing your company in those situations, because I'll be honest, our store was very gatekeepy about our sales reps for a really long time, and it was out of fear that we would have people reaching out and representing values that were not in line with our store. And we've learned that that hasn't been an issue since we've stopped doing it, but it was something that I think a lot of times the concern comes from like these relationships are super important. Do you guys know like the difference between a phone sales rep and field rep travels? If you're a small store, you probably don't have very many field reps. If you're a bigger store, you probably see them come in. The phone reps tend to serve the same function, but they do it over the phone or Zoom. And then customer service are the people that are going to actually like help you track your shipments and all of that stuff when your rep doesn't answer your email fast enough. But I think like those rep relationships are super important because it's how you get signed pre-packs and events and all these other things. Like it's the basis for your whole relationship with the publisher. They are your main point of contact as a buyer. So you want to make sure that you're sort of preserving the quality of that, and and everyone's in the indie book industry tends to be a little bit like, I don't want to bother anyone.
Bother them.
Yeah, please do.
You
They
don't
love
get
it.
anything if you don't ask for it.
Yes.
Please.
And don't be afraid to do the wrong thing too by accident. Like I've emailed people being like, this is what I want. They're like, wrong person, email them. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, it's like, I was so scared of emailing the wrong person, asking the wrong person, like sounding like I don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay. Like you just ask questions, like they're willing to answer questions too.
This is a fake it till you make it industry. And everyone is very willing to help you make it. We're all reliant on each other for success, so it is something where everyone is sort of willing to help you. But just keeping in mind that you are, you want to send an email being like, I'm excited about this, and it's really in line with what I want to be doing in this section. That kind of stuff can work really well, even if it's just like, I'm so excited to read this because I'm personally going to hand sell it to everyone.
And to that point, be active on Edelweiss, be looking at things that are coming out. You can use the filters. I use the filters all the time. You can search for things that are going to come out in the next 3 months, just so you know that when things come into the store, you've already seen them. You've seen the cover. You've maybe read the blurb. Read all of the digital arts, not all of them, but most of them. As much as you can. Just familiarize yourself with the book. I will say for, at least in our store, or in my experience, curiosity is all you really need to be a good bookseller. Figure out how your store works. Ask your buyer, what's a catalog? And if you have supportive upper staff, they will guide you. They'll help you. They want you to be there forever. They want good booksellers to stick around, and people who are curious and want to know how their store works, want to know why do we do returns. These are all questions that you can and should ask, and because if no one's asking you, you can't actually make any of your processes better.
Yeah, exactly.
I also want to say to Edelweiss, like, I really love like the friend feature on Edelweiss, like adding people as friends and seeing their reviews, because I'm not a buyer. Like, I will occasionally look at catalogs, but all my friends who are buyers, like whenever they like stuff or mark it as wanting to read, that's when it comes in my email, and I'm like, ooh, like click, and then I look at the catalog because I saw this one book, et cetera, et cetera. But also on the topic of, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. If you are like an upper person and you're hearing this, be like, whatever, remember that your young booksellers, like the ones that are like new, that don't know this, like might be really interested to like talk to the reps, or like get them excited, like find out what they like to read too, so that you can get them, bringing them into this world and get them as excited as you are, or the people in this room. Like, don't forget to utilize like those little people too, because like they can be the best booksellers farther down the line too.
And you can request access from the reps or from your buyer if you don't know the reps information to get access to the publisher markups in Edelweiss. So in the Edelweiss catalogs, there is like the descriptions and stuff, and then hopefully you have rep-based markups that have notes like, we're doing a ton of marketing. This is who this is for. We're so excited about it, whatever. And that can be really helpful as a frontline bookseller, because they're giving you like hand selling tips in those, and having access to that information can be really helpful, and is part of that like curiosity element of like knowing what are the publishers spending extra time on, what are they highlighting, all of that, and sort of how it fits in with your store's collection as well.
I want to stop periodically and ask if we have any questions. I do want this to be helpful. Is there anyone who does have a question about a publisher relationship, please?
I have a question about Edelweiss and using that. As a new bookseller, and a book buyer in a small store, it's really overwhelming. I came from a library where it was really straightforward ordering. And so what's the best way here? I know there are like little Edelweiss meetings and things like that, but like if I could just see how other people's page looks, I don't know. It's just, I open it and
I brought my computer. I will happily sit down with you after this. I would love showing you how to use it.
I will also add that Edelweiss is here. Deidre is the Lindy Success Director. She's super approachable. Go say hi. She will help you and set up an appointment.
Yeah, and they do have tutorial videos online too that are actually pretty good, and you just
Really
kind of find them.
Those all might be better
Yeah.
options than just watching.
Yeah.
But also, we're all gonna watch clips.
Yeah. Sorry. And like suggest to your regionals too. Like we at NEBA, we had like an Edelweiss session where literally someone on the board like screen shared their Edelweiss and like how they use it and go through it, like how they do their buying, which was very, very useful.
I have a question about field reps, and so for some publishers, we do have a field rep, like Candlewick and Chronicle, for example, but when I reach out to, say, Macmillan or Penguin or something like that, they seem to have no idea who my rep is, or they'll direct me to something like a really general, like big, like Market Time, you know what I'm talking, kind of not a real rep. It seems like they're directing me to some sort of company that handles several states or something like that. So do you have any recommendations for that, to how to find a field rep for some of those publishers?
Talk to your buyer. Okay, yeah. Then in that case, if you're the owner, then
Talk to the people at Rep Picks, the reps that are here, and be like, I'm having an awful, which is happening twice on Tuesday.
Yes, so
Before and after lunch.
You can also, I would say, their vendor tables, everyone has a vendor table. But I would also encourage you, at rep days, grab their card, give them your card. And the people that you are talking to here are usually heads of marketing, heads of sales, and they don't want to let you down. And so they'll help you siphon through all of that much faster than being shoved into this like telepool of nonsense where they're like, whatever. Companies like Penguin, Grand House, their reps are, their field reps, their phone reps, they're amazing. And once you get them, they will help you. But go to the top, and those are the folks here, and then just sort of be like, hey, like, you need to know me. Yeah, Erica.
Thank you.
And if you tell them that you've been getting the runaround, they will generally work faster.
Shame them.
Privately.
I think it's a continuation of that question, but this idea of being I'm a pop-up, right? It's small, nobody cares about me.
Oh, no.
We do. Thank you. I guess, as I've been doing this, because my inventory is small, right? I'm also honestly, because I'm at events and pop-ups, people aren't putting down $35 for frontline hardcover books, right? So I'm kind of, my little niche is like when they go into paperbacks and stuff. So I don't know if having a rep, because I haven't had one, I've just sort of done what I do and done my own research, reached out, like if I have issues, speak to customer service, but should I be actively doing this, or am I okay to just kind of do my thing?
Well, to speak to that, I would say, more often than not, I hate answering emails, I hate sending them, and I would much rather just do my own thing at my own pace. But having a rep does bring you things. They will send you whatever deals they are doing, whatever promotions they're running. I can ask my rep for a list of Halloween books or books with queer characters. They will put a list together for you. That's what I think they are there for, or most useful for me. Those things that I don't have the time to do, or those things that they could put together, so quickly. They have these things, these resources.
Can I also add, Erica's doing a session later in this institute. Please go and see what she's doing, because you're not just little small. And I would also say, lead with your mission. Like publishers, we are mission forward, serve children. And publishers are kind of getting there, but they're not really getting there. Lead with your mission. And if they are not supporting your mission, they are not supporting you. And I guess that's what I mean when I say shame them. I don't mean shame them, but let them know that you're there and these are your priorities. If their priorities and your priorities aren't aligned, we need to work on that.
So I'm also a bookstore and felt all the things you said about really run into just being completely ignored no matter how much I reach out. So I'm kind of curious whether you can answer this or someone else can. What language are y'all using to get someone to actually just respond?
This is not really an answer, but kind of an answer. But I know that every regional is different or whatever, but I'm a big firmer in collaboration. So if there are other bookstores in your area that maybe are bigger and more established, if they can connect you with their reps, that might be your best bet. Because as much as your language might be good, they might not even be opening your email. They're busy, they get a lot of them. But, and I'm using Erica as an example for this, because she's in Brewster, Mass. So Buttonwood Books and Toys in Cohasset, Mass. is a big store. Reps come there all the time. Connect with Kathy and Christine at Buttonwood. Christine's here. I don't think she's in this room, but she's here. And they can connect you with all their reps. And hopefully, once you have that email connection, they know who you are, they know whatever, you can form a better relationship. Because I don't know. I feel like we should all be helping each other in this industry. That's my personal opinion. And then sometimes you're not going to find people that are very helpful, but maybe you'll find someone. And maybe they'll be a little bit farther away, but someone that's willing to connect you into that world a little bit easier.
Yeah, and some of the time the reps, depending on the publisher, they may not have the ability to just add you to their book of accounts. but they may be able to do something as simple as share their markup. So that you know, like if you focus on paperbacks, they can share that markup that says this sold really well in hardcover and I think is going to translate well, or this kind of got lost in hardcover, but it's an opportunity in paperback. And I do think for really small stores, focusing on potential sales growth. Our store's pretty big. We have 3 locations, but we're kids only and often get shoved in the kids' corner. We had to fight pretty hard for some of our reps. And it really was us going, the publishers that send me a field rep have seen significant growth in our sales from them. We buy more books if you show up in our store. And at the end of the day, they want to sell you books. That's the point of them sending out those field reps, so they can see that there's potential for more growth there. That's something that they're going to pay more attention to.
I just wanted to add, I'm not a panelist, but I'm also a pop-up. One of the tactics that I use is reaching out to authors themselves. Because authors often have to do a lot of their own marketing, and I'm not sure if you go over this, but I've gotten in contact with some authors, and so then they will connect me with the publisher rep, because they need to, that's how we find it. So that's something that I think is going really well. Stop connecting with Earl Brown and awesome reps.
Yes, be creative. Use whatever you got. You're making connections in here. Lean on them.
We have 3 more questions.
Then
We are like almost halfway through, guys, so we have 3 more. We'll do this 3 more.
Pop-up as well. My question is pretty specific. So far, I've only done 3, but I've gotten a pretty good relationship with my rep at Ingram because I figured that was just the easiest way to plug in immediately, right? My question is, our brick and mortar is still on an 18-month, we're doing it, but construction is still pending, et cetera. Until then, community excitement through pop-ups. Being here, I have not planned to do a lot of meetings with publishers, reps, because I don't know if the timing is right for me yet to do that. My question to you guys would be like, is it never too early to go ahead and start that conversation?
No, introduce yourself. Yeah, you don't have to nail them down into specifics or anything, but it is always worth it to introduce yourself, say 2 interesting things, and they'll always remember.
We're gonna exit out in a few minutes. Hi, my question's on another point up there, which is the on-sale date. So, just sort of curious how your respective stores are handling that. I mean, obviously there's, strict lay down, nothing you can do about that, but since a lot of these books are shipping well ahead of release date, and it seems like on social media, a lot of bookstores are just starting to put them out as opposed to waiting until that actual Tuesday release date. So just sort of curious what you guys are hearing, and if you've gotten pushback from publishers on doing that, et cetera.
Are there any publishers in the room?
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So we got really stressed about this, and I emailed every single one of our publishers about it. Most of them do not have strict lay down dates, and those are the ones where like you sign something with Scholastic saying you will not put Dogman or whatever, JK whatever's next book is out early, but otherwise they just send them all together. Our in-store policy is that if there is a date on the box or on the packing slip, we hold it until release date, until the official release date, because we want it for bestseller lists and all that kind of stuff to be there on the correct week. But if there is nothing telling me that I'm not supposed to put it out, our staff are allowed to put it out. And some of that is just it's not worth my staff's time to look up the release date for every single book that comes in. But it is the kind of, but like if they don't want you to put it out, it'll say it on the box, it'll say it on the packing slip. And we do have a guide because like, I don't know, HarperCollins puts it like tiny on the box, but it's on the box, so we stand by what they say, but it does. But I would say the publishers only care about specific titles for the most part, and they'll send you a list of what those titles are, and usually they have, a lot of them have you sign the agreement stuff, but it also is just sort of, I think most of the time they're like, it's fine, you can put it out. Why is everyone so stressed about it?
Yeah, just ask, asking questions is, if you are not sure about something, it's better to ask someone, anyone that you have access to, even a, if you can't find a rep, ask another store, is this okay? Do you think this is all right? All right. Oh, please.
Sorry. Mine is just about the arcs. I want to make sure that you didn't skip that part. What do you do with all these arcs after writing on it? And then, you use them as giveaways. Do you have to wait till after they're published? And that type of question.
Well, one, if you want to engage kids in your community, tell them you will give them free books for reviews. It's an easy way to get kids excited. My son, the nerd that he is, since I worked in a bookstore, basically grew up there. His brag for years was that he could read books before they came out, before anyone else heard of them. They don't know any better. They think it's get creative. The blind date with a book. I don't know if every store does that, but wrap them up after they've come out and use them for fundraising or.
So you shouldn't give them away until after they're out, right?
Yes. Excellent. Let's do some role play. It's gonna get interactive again. We didn't, when we put this together, know that you all were so good at talking. And so we thought we would have to model for you talking to a publisher, because you would be too tiny and afraid. We are going to do it. We've got too many theater kids on the stage to not do it. But we were going to speed run it.
Full body interaction, you guys are getting hands up.
It's gonna be an interpretive dance. Which one? This is the publisher one?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for rolling with this. I hope you're having fun. I think it's fun.
Children's book selling is 80% making a fool of yourself.
Or pretending like you know what you're talking about.
I do that often. Also, I'm offended by how good Diane talks as a theater.
How many people here is theater?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, just imagine you're at the reception tonight and you're doing thing, you're standing there going like, well, that conversation ended, what do I do now? And I'm gonna be like, oh, that's
So
fine.
I'm Molly. I'm from Europa. Conference. I'm from Campbell.
And so I'll be like, hi, Paul from Starbucks.
Nice to meet you, Paul. How's it going? Are you having a good conference?
Yeah, this is my first Children's Institute.
Oh my goodness, have you seen anything amazing?
Not yet, I haven't undergone the calendar yet, but I'm so excited to do so.
Yes, you should check out all Campbell's new titles.
There you go. You're not gonna have to do Katie Middle Market, are you?
Absolutely not. So we've been making the booksellers do less paper. Joke, but there are some really great ones in there. We love your feedback.
Oh yeah, where do I send my feedback?
Oh, you can email it to me.
I didn't bring you this first. I'm a bookseller, but it didn't occur to me, so I'll be like, oh, great, I'll email you so you can have my email.
Yeah, next year bring your business cards.
Make sure to bring your business cards. Make somebody bring you business cards. It's worth it.
Yeah, and do actually email me, please. I would love to hear your feedback. I actually care.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you, Paul.
It's wonderful to meet you, Molly. Thank you so much.
And that's how you get awkward in public.
Now it's your turn.
I'm gonna.
Oh, wait, yeah, we need to do your weirdness first.
Oh.
Talk about how weird they were.
What would you do differently?
So this is big. I like to, when I am a very nervous person. Hi, I'm Jen. I work at APA. I talk too much. And when I am nervous, I talk even more. And so this exercise serves to sort of help you create this script in your head. Because if you are nervous, you're gonna be like, oh crap, who am I again? So we want you just to have just a few words that be like, hi, I'm so-and-so. I work here. I like to read blah, blah, blah. That was truly awkward and the most authentic role playing I've seen. And so, like, you don't have to talk it out, but like, just absorb what happened. It was weird.
Okay, all right.
Have your like do's, have your don'ts, but always remember to get the card and remember to follow up. Always follow up. You're not annoying anybody, so just knock on those doors.
And even if you don't know who they are or any titles from their publisher, like if you're a new bookseller, you may not know any specific books from Candlewick that are your favorites. You can say, what is new and exciting? What's coming out? You know, and they will sit there and talk to you about their favorite book off of their fall list for as long as you'll stand there, generally. They're excited to talk to you about what's going on with their publisher, and the more buy-in they have from booksellers, the better their books are going to do. So they, you know, like you are helping them out, and hopefully they're going to help you out and get you smarts and stuff. And also, they're also often awkward people, so it's okay.
Yeah, they're just human. Okay.
They don't directly?
We don't know. We talk too much. I think I don't think we're gonna make them do it.
If you want to read
If you want to say after, we will judge you then.
Hand selling. This stuff bookselling is made of. My number one piece of advice, if you only hear one thing I say, just do enthusiasm. When you walk in your children's section, whether it be a couple of shelves or an entire room or maybe your full store, just do enthusiasm. Kids love it. Make a fool of yourself. There's no other way to ingratiate yourself to a child. And then just be real. Just speak to them as though they were a person, but smaller. When you are hand selling to a kid, even if the parent is there, speak to them. Don't just hand books to their parent. Don't be afraid of them. They're riddled with insecurity, and they can't drive. They don't have anything. They're not buying their own books. You have the upper hand. Do not be afraid. Any other advice? What do we do? What are some of our hand selling best practices?
I said this earlier, but like in terms of figuring out where they are, like what they last read they loved or that they really didn't like, etc. Especially if they read something in school but they like really didn't like it type thing, so that you can like be like, what interests you? What movie do you watch? What TV shows or something? I don't know. Kids can watch TV, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Meet them where they are. If they hated something, they'll tell you. And they can better tell you what they hated than, in my experience, than what they actually liked. They can tell you why they hated a thing, and they can only tell you they liked a thing because it was funny or because it was good.
And like if a kid is, I don't like to read, then it's like, what do you like to do? Like you can say that. What do you like to do that's not reading? And also when you get a kid who, you will experience a phenomenon, at least I do all the time, or a 9-year-old, you will say, what's the last book that you read that you liked? And they'll be like, I've never heard of a book ever. There's not a single book title in the world that they can conjure in their mind and say out loud at that moment. They are totally stun-locked. So you can say, have you read this? Like you can start pointing at the really big keystone stuff, like the super popular everywhere books, the Magic Tree Houses, the Percy Jacksons, the Wimpy Kids, all those types of things. You can point at those or just say, have you read this? Have you read that? Have you read? And you'll kind of like, sometimes you can kind of shake them out of that thing where they just go like, I've never heard of a book.
I've never heard of a book, kids, honestly.
It's so funny. Just name any book.
They're like, what's a book? I also think it's important to remember that kids are people with preferences. There's this tendency in kids' books to say, like, this is a book that every 10-year-old should read. And there are those books that exist, I think, but I think for the most part, sometimes kids are not gonna like the same things that their peers do. So making sure that we're recommending to them the same way we would with an adult, where you're saying, what do you like, what do you care about, and what don't you like? And, you know, like, if they don't like fantasy, stop recommending them fantasy. Just because that's what's popular in the moment doesn't mean that's what they have to like. And I think it's important to recognize that, like, yes, kids are going to, you know, they go to summer camp and come back and they are all reading the same book, but there will be those 3 kids that hated it and need something different. And just recognizing that we want to make sure we're respecting them as readers. I think that's what a lot of it boils down to, is respecting children as people and readers with their own thoughts and feelings and perspective.
Well, to that end, it is just see them as a person. You know, so few people in their lives, so few adults are actually interested in what they want. And you know, this is a transaction. You are selling them a book. Sell them a book. Each kid individually. Ask them what they want, what they like, what they dislike, what they do, and then you know you should ideally have an idea of what something they would like. Be, you know, familiar enough with your style. Also, carry interesting books. You know, it should go without saying, but carry things that kids want to read. You know, for a very long time, we didn't carry pink, sparkly, very traditionally girl-coded books, because that's not our store. But there are kids who want to read that, and not all of them are girls. And it's okay. I don't care. Read what you want. Just read. Carry something for every kid. If there are books that have not left my shelf in 2 years, don't tell my managers. But because I know one day a kid is going to come in and be looking for this weird title, and I want to have it. And you know, the thing I live for is that day. It is, you know, just carry a wide array of things, as wide as you can. I know we are bound by our physical space, and it never seems enough, no matter how much you have. But you know, try and carry as much, or talk about it so well that they won't care about waiting 3 to 5 business days to get it in. Really sell the shit out of that book.
My advice is don't be afraid of what you don't know either. Like, I read a lot of books, but there's sometimes kids will say something where I'm like, I can't think of a single freaking book that I know in this genre. So I go over, like, let's go look. And then I go and I read the spines really, really fast. I'm like, this looks like it'd be, and I open it with them, like, oh, that looks like it'd be really good. And I read the back, like it's about a whatever. Like literally read the back of the book with them, because sometimes that's all you can do if you don't know a book off the top of your head that you can recommend to them, or you don't know the book that you want to recommend is not on the shelf. Like, sometimes you have to come up with things and be okay to just go along the journey with them. Do what they would do.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is my bread and butter. It's the only part of the job I'm actually good at. But hand them the book. You know it. It's in your store. You shelved it. Hand it to them and then tell them about it. You know, you don't have to tell them it's funny, run down the best scene in the book, really spin a yarn, get them excited about it, and let them have it, let them touch it. This is why we work in physical media. Really let them feel it, let them flip through the pages. And, you know, I have and pretty much an entire room for 2 kids, so I can walk around. It's in being, like, hand selling a book is, you know, I'm getting all my steps in. We're walking around, I'm talking a lot of shit. You know, I'm picking up 3 books, I'm handing them all to them, I'm inundating them with information, I'm very excited. And, you know, then they have the thing. I show them the table, and I say, flirt with these, you know, anything you don't want, throw it away over here in this bin, because I have to shelf it. Don't put it back on the shelf. And then tell them that the stakes are so low. I do not care if you buy this book that I know is the best book ever written. You don't have to have good taste. You can read whatever you want. I just want you to read something. I want you to read something that will interest you, that will feed you, and above all, it's just debase yourself. It's fun.
And I do think making sure that you're recommending more than one thing is important. Like we do 3 to 5, usually 3 with kids, because I think they tend to sort of get a little overwhelmed a little faster. But making sure that we've physically handed them the things and that they have multiples to decide between, or to hopefully maybe buy a whole stack.
Yeah, options are very good.
And knowing that moment, knowing when you've got the books in their hand and you're kind of like, you're running out of things to say about those books, and you can be like, and you can tell they're kind of like overwhelmed, overstimulated. You can be like, go over there and look at these books and let me know if you like one of them. And if you don't, I'll give you 3 more. You know what I mean? Like, but knowing that moment to be like, okay, fly, like you go do this now. I've given you everything I can give you. You got to pick. That's a good thing to do.
So I have a question for you all. How do you deal with an overbearing parent? How do you sell a book?
Let's go to the next slide.
When their parent wants something way above their reading level.
We already talked about this. It's another slide.
I think we actually talked through all this, but
Sorry for that.
Yeah, there it is.
that's an eager parent. Yes.
We redirect to the kid. It's all about getting it back to the kid. Like if the parent answers for them, I ask a direct follow-up to the kid. So if I ask, what do you like reading? And the parent goes, oh, he likes whatever. I look at him directly, do not make any eye contact with the parent. And I say, what is it that you liked about that book? So that you get a redirect to the kid and they have like some agency to actually give you real information. And usually eventually if you do that enough, the parents kind of back away.
Now, good time for a question.
Absolutely.
We can take a moment for a question, yeah.
I was hoping to get your opinion on a common thing I hear from parents, which is something along the lines of, I want you to pick out a real book.
We're getting there, yeah. That's
So you all have this issue.
I want you to have a real parent.
Don't do that.
I don't need to jump again, so if I answer this ahead of your time, sorry. So my answer usually is, because I'm a big giant fan of graphic novels, and I usually point out, like, there were like studies done that say, like, graphic novels have just as many words for whatever, and I point that out to the parent. So in that case, I'm talking directly to the parent saying, oh no, plus reading fluency is an excellent way to increase reading, and so I say graphic novels are one of the ways that kids reread and reread, and are more likely to reread this book, which talks to the parent's pocketbook because they don't feel like the kid read it in 10 minutes and now they're done with it. The other thing that I like to point out is, like whose little boys, it feels like somewhere around 8, 9, to 10, and it doesn't feel like they go back to reading until after college. And so if I can like hook them in with some of those like Nathan Hill's Hazardous Tales, which are truly all graphic novels, there's so much, and I usually like whip that book out and like point out like how many words are on the page. Usually I can turn that conversation enough that the parent's like, oh, the other place is words in novel and prose. It looks like a quote real book, but the kid doesn't get overwhelmed with how many words are on the page. That's usually my workaround. It doesn't always work, but that seems to be how I've gotten around some of those die-hard, it's a cartoon, it's not a book.
If I can speak on that for just a second, one of the things that we do a lot is we have a couple of and on this same question, like those are all great ideas, especially for people who aren't doing graphic novels yet or things like that. But a lot of my problem with this question is the parents who already have a kid who's reading a lot of graphic novels, but they're like, hey, I want them to be reading more than this. And like whatever else we want to say about it, sometimes that's what you have to work with. So I have a couple of go-to series that are like, kind of like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but maybe even a little more words, but that are like illustrated very thoroughly throughout and are really fun and like capture a lot of the same energy as graphic novels. One of those is Wonkenstein by Obert Sky. Everybody should order this because maybe we can keep it from going out of print. It's a really great, like, it's perfect for that. It's got like a 5th grade reading level and all this kind of stuff. Like the Treehouse series is good for that. The 13-story Treehouse. The Last Kids on Earth is good for that. Like there are a lot of books that I specifically don't keep in graphic novels, even though I kind of probably could, because I want to be able to take them away from graphic novels and show them to the kid and be like, but this is a real book. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that that's it, like, we know they're all real books, but you have to work with who you're working with. It's called Wonkenstein. The series is called Creature from My Closet. It's by Obert Sky. Sky is S-K-Y-E. Please, everyone, order it. We can keep this series from going out of print. It's too good to lose.
Planet Omar is also a good one.
Planet Omar is excellent.
Spiderwick Chronicles.
It's about to be turned into an Apple TV but so
I didn't hear that one.
increasing popularity. But my question is, we live in a lot of book bans, and a lot of parents are very particular about what they want their kids reading. And sometimes they'll come up to a bookseller and be like, I want something that's appropriate for my child, and that can mean a vast majority of things, because sometimes some people think like anything gay is inappropriate or something like that. So how do you guys find out what the parents see for what their kids are reading?
We ask.
Yeah.
When they say they want something appropriate, I say, is there a particular type of content that you're concerned about? And generally, after a little bit of hemming and hawing, they'll be like, I don't want gay books or something. But we're in DC, so like we do have, like we're in an area where, it's 97% Democrat, and most people are really ashamed of their like homophobic racist tendencies. So it is a little easier for us to kind of ferret that out in a way that, ends with me being like, you're still gonna buy this book for me. But we tend to try to redirect this into books being a safe space to explore questions about the world. So if your kid is reading a book about drug use, that does not mean your kid is going to become a drug user. It means that that is something that is part of the world that they live in, and they may have questions or something about it, and books are a safe way to explore that without them being put into an unsafe situation in the real world. And oftentimes that helps, because parents, as much as they are often so misguided and so close-minded, they're on the same team. Like you're trying, like you want to be working with the parent for the kid. So their concerns are coming from a place that they love their kid and don't want them to have a hard time. So I feel like I try to like retrain my brain to not feel so adversarial with them and to sort of try to say like, you may be wrong, but let's like get to a correct place together.
So this is kind of a follow-up to my previous question. My main concern is, as a bookseller or as a bookstore, what is my place in even making a recommendation to a parent? Like what role or how much responsibility or what role or what is it even my right to say, to argue with them if they say something like, I want you to pick a real book. And then kind of a follow-up to that is, on this last topic, this might be different from bookstore to bookstore, but one time I think I was just selling a choose your own adventure book, and a grandma said something very loudly, something along the lines of, there's not anything gay in this book, is there? And there was other customers around. I was like, what's the right answer to this? I mean, is this a bookstore policy thing, or should I be angry about this question? Like, what should a bookseller say to that?
Well, so you can, you have whatever power you give yourself.
Right.
And each situation is different. There are, I will say, my favorite thing to do is to let a stupid question sit in space between us. for a beat too long, because people would know that they're being stupid when you point it out to them. But I've gotten very good at reading parents and grandparents, and when you are selling a book to a parent who even if you think they might, but don't gender the characters when you're telling them about it, because boys can read a book about a girl. And I don't know, leave some of that. You have to respect the parents' wishes. Don't lie about what's in a book, but you can selectively tell them. Select which parts of a book to highlight. And you don't want to fight with anyone in your store, but you can't always kick people out, because you only want to sell the books that you want to sell, and telegraph who you are as a store. Right. We put queer books everywhere, so that when you walk in, there's a high probability you will get a queer book. I don't know, how do you all deal with it?
I kind of get really anxious, but I kind of kill them with kindness. Like, I just smile and start talking really exuberantly, and just don't say anything negative, but also don't acknowledge the fact that they said something negative either, and then end the conversation as fast as I can and get out of there. But I also that brings up an important point of safety within a bookstore too, of you feeling safe in conversations. It's important that you, whether you're leading a bookstore or you are on the same page as your superiors who owns it, of being able to tap out if you need to tap out, and calling in reinforcements. I've been in situations where just I can tell that my junior bookseller 16's having a really hard time with the conversation. I'm gonna sweep in and just be like, hi, my name's Kimi, blah, 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 take over the conversation a little bit, to give them a break, because sometimes we can't handle things in the moment, and that's okay. And you just have to figure out the best way to get out of the situation as fast as you can.
Also, feign ignorance.
Yeah.
What is that word?
Yeah.
Can you be more descriptive? Because they know they're being idiotic, and they just want you to play along. Don't. Make them do all of the work. Make them tell you why they don't want their kid to read about another kid that's the same age, going through roughly similar things. Ask them why. You can ask a lot of questions. I'm from the Midwest. I'm very passive aggressive. I cannot do confrontation, but I can make you feel stupid.
That should be the next panel clip. I would attend. I do also think sometimes, I tend to laugh and be like, oh no, no, we're not doing this. But we also have, if someone's asking something that is overtly homophobic, racist, anything that I'm that's just crossing the line. We have in our training for booksellers, we have a conversation where I say, this is gonna come up at some point for you. There's gonna be a creepy dad, because I don't know if all kids stores have this, but ours does. There's one every year. They cycle through, and if he makes you uncomfortable, you can walk away. If someone says something homophobic to you, you can walk away. These are the people on staff that you can call and say, I'll talk to anybody, say homophobic stuff to me, I'll just laugh at you, it's fine. And I'm also management level, so I'm not gonna get in trouble if I do something to piss off that customer. I would rather me be accountable than one of our junior booksellers. So it ends up being a conversation where I'm you can walk away, find me, I will step in, I'll help that customer, I'll figure out what they need, and I'll make them feel a little bit guilty about whatever it is that they said. But it is important to make sure that your employees feel safe walking away, because there are situations where people really are just awful. And no one in bookselling gets paid enough to deal with that.
So I'm in Mississippi. So this can get very fraught for us, and probably happens more for us than I think people even realize. There's some self-selection to it, right? You have some I have some queer books out. I have a book about raising anti-racist children and stuff like that. And that kind of sometimes that kind of solves the problem. But we also recently have implemented a customer concern form at the advisement of some other stores who we knew were dealing with some similar things. And this is more for our employees than it really is for us or for those people. It's a way to redirect those people, right? If somebody is being a problem, it's a way to say oh, I actually don't make any of these decisions. I have nothing to do with what you're talking about. So here's a piece of paper where you can be mean to the piece of paper, and you can put your email, and another person whose job it is to deal with that will email you and say, hey, probably say hey, don't come into our store and be mean anymore. But also you know what I mean? It's not really a way for us to collect data I think people will think it is. It's a way for us to redirect people who are being bad to employees. But as far as hand selling, you just kind of vibe it out. You can kind of tell, I think a lot of the time, if people are going to be weird. And so my goal is to send a kid home with a book that will help them be a reader, because I think a kid as a reader is more likely to find their way to good ideas than a kid who's not a reader. And so if I remove myself from that situation by fighting the parent or you know what I mean, creating this negative experience, that kid's gone and probably forever. And I'm not going to get another chance to help them become a reader. And who knows what's going to happen to them after that, right? Who knows what they're going to get given to them after that? So my goal is always to give them something that I think is I don't carry any books that promote hate. So even if I give them a book that, is meets these absurd demands, I've made sure this kid is leaving with something that will help them grow. That's my goal.
Can I add? So one of the things, this came up at a winter institute conversation that we were having, and Cliff, who was on it, kind of jokingly said, get the kid away from the parent. Not like a kidnapping.
Yes,
but
Right. Don't kidnap
But you can put some distance between the overbearing parent or the overeager parent, and you spend this time perceiving the child, when you say, these young people these days are you perceive me, and you do that for the kid. And so when you see the child as separate from the tether to their parent, and you can get that distance between them and their horrible parents, I don't want you reading anything about anything that isn't you. The kid will gesture, indicate that they actually need what they're being denied. And just that recognition of I see you, signals that you are safe. You are the place for them. So if they walk out with something they don't really want because mom says, don't read this, that's okay because they saw you see them. And when they are old enough to have some agency, they will keep coming back to you. So it's not, this is the second thing I want to add. While you're here, ask yourself, what is my purpose? Why am I selling books? We all know it's not to become millionaires. Why are you doing this? You are doing this because you care about something. Who do you care about? What do you stand for? I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing people who've been bookselling for many years. So I have no idea why you're in the new children's bookseller section. But I see mission-driven stores. I see you in having your focus. Hi, Jean. Go talk to Jean. Jean's been doing this stuff for years. Erica, talk to Erica. Erica's doing this stuff. Have your mission. Lead with your mission. Let them know who you are before they can tell you that they don't want what you have. They are there for a reason. You are in charge. You owe them nothing. Get their money.
That's commerce in a nutshell. We have one question.
We have a couple of people back there. How are we? We have 40 minutes. We're actually doing pretty good.
Maybe we'll have to roll plays.
And you kind of show them the whole store, like they expect you to be the personal shopper, and they just get in the middle of the room and go like, no, no. And then they how many books do you show them before you exit and
How busy are you that day? I don't know.
I hate to lose. I love a challenge. I will find a book. And if I can't, you just ask more questions. Ask, after the third no, without even looking at the book, I'll ask them, well, what do you want? What kind of book do you want? What do you want to see in it? And if they can't answer you, then they are just wasting your time. Just have your store phone on speed dial. Just dial it in your pocket, and then run away. I swear to you, it works. I also do this for your coworkers. If you see them trapped by someone, call the store phone and say, "Hey, can you get that? I'm actually really busy right now." Just like yourself. Also, you don't always want anything. But if you feel that you can sell a book, it's a challenge is fun, and we only are here because we love talking about books. The opportunity to do it is when someone asks you for a recommendation. That's why I'm here. That's why I clock in. But you know when it's enough, and that's different for every customer. You can tell by their body language and surly attitude when they're wasting your time and don't actually want anything. Do you have a different?
I have difficult customers like that. Sometimes they're a blessing and a curse. Some of those people come in and they will spend a lot of money, but it's an hour or an hour and a half of your time is what you're paying into that, right? And I even sometimes wouldn't ask my coworkers to do it because it's crazy. So it's like, if I'm there and they're there, I'll deal with it and I'll make it happen. But sometimes they come when I'm not there, and then they come in the next time and they're like, oh, I just couldn't find what I need, and it sometimes those things work themselves out eventually. Eventually they'll come in when you're not there enough that then they don't come in anymore. But you just have to decide if it's worth it for people like that. And like he said, have an exit strategy. Have a way out if you're just trapped with somebody who's just in no mode and it's just like wasting your time.
I also sometimes don't ask them if that one, I don't, if they're not taking the books I'm handing them, I stop handing them books and I make a pile and then I circle them to where the chair is. And then I sit the pile down and I say, why don't you take a look at this pile, see if anything works. If not, come find me. And then I go off the floor or something and disappear for a while. And usually they find something in that pile because when they're actually looking at the books, they realize there are good ones in the pile. I think a lot of the time when that happens, they really just don't know what they're actually looking for. So I feel like giving them an opportunity to browse without having to browse sometimes works best.
I'm just circling back to the item on my paper part. I have a strategy that works really well for me to make sure that it knows where they can get it later. Because we're on outside medicine, so we're very positive and very clear. You walk past the grandparent coming in, but we'll still have the grandparents thank you. So I like to hand that very down. So I'll take a look that I know has great characters that I know this kid would like, or the kid would like. And I'll be like, oh, this one's so good, I like it because blah, blah, blah. Oh, but shoot, it actually has a gay character. Let's just put that back. And then eventually they'll find something that would fit with what the parent or the grandparents are asking for. But occasionally I'll throw out, oh, but I think they also have this in the library, so, if you want to check it later, you could.
I'd love to hear a little bit about helping him sell for those kids that are in the middle, the 12, 13, 14-year-olds that are what are the go-to questions to expect things they use? Slide on there.
There is this one.
That's the role play.
Oh wait, no. No, the role play is younger.
No, there's two. You do one, they do one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to answer that question.
We're gonna make so, but to yeah.
One, Timeless by Armand Balthazar.
Yes.
It's a fantastic book. I give that to every kid right around that age. Wildwood too, I really love.
Balthazar, you said?
Balthazar, yeah.
It does have a terrible cliffhanger at the end though, and the sequel is not.
It's coming, I swear. It has to.
It has to.
Are you're saying for like 12 to 14, like, are you talking about like kids who are like reading in the teen section or want to read in the teen section, but their parents are being kind of like cagey about it? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
It's the full spectrum, because it's the parents that are like, oh, no, you're too good a reader, you should read YA.
Oh,
But it's also the 12-year-old that feels like they should read YA.
sure.
And like, well, like, both that are like, oh, that's baby stuff, I need this. It's just navigating those spectrums.
That is, that's all very fair. I don't interact with should. If you, if you are, I mean, there are upper middle grade books that are, in my opinion, more sophisticated than YA. It is, it's all about what kind of story they want. What do they want to do? What sort of emotions do you want to have? Do you want to cry? Do you want to laugh? And then putting a book like that in their hands. And if it's, if you're afraid of them thinking it's too babyish, like leave them somewhere and go get it from the section so they don't know what age it's for, and then give it to them. And only talk about the things that you like about it. You don't have to say it's for any particular age.
On that note, we have a little face out section really close to the teen section that like feels like it's really in the teen section, but I actually only put middle grade books there that I think are going to appeal to the upper end of middle grade and those kids who want to read teen books but are like 10. And I like specifically put books there that I think will appeal to them. I'm on a stage right now, so I can't think of any book in the whole world. But after the session, maybe I'll be able to conjure up some of those titles. But it's like, it's kind of what you would think. It's just anything that falls into that 10 to 14 category or things like that. That's where I put that, so that when I get that kid, I go like, oh, let's go to the teen section. And then I pick up the book and I hand it to them. And with like a wink and a nod to a parent who's being kind of cagey about it, I can explain like, oh, these are for our upper interest middle grade readers and that kind of thing. That works tremendously.
Yeah, oftentimes it's just like the age of the protagonist too. Like Once There Was by Kiash Monsef is a new middle grade, but the main character is 15, but it very much is like middle grade and like themes, but just like is a little bit up there in like writing style. And so I feel like sometimes the kids who want to read higher don't necessarily want to read higher. They just want to read a character that is older than they are. Like they want to be looking up rather than someone who's a baby in their eyes. And so I just feel like whenever I like read something like that, I like put it into my little book vault and then I try to bring that out when I can.
And I think it's important to note that a lot of middle grade is at the same reading level as YA. Upper middle grade in particular tends to be reading level adjacent to YA. The biggest difference is often content. So we say like, if you're interested in having a heavier romantic storyline or more graphic violence in your stories, then YA is maybe a better section for you. But if you prefer not to have as much of that content, then you're gonna be in middle grade. And generally the kids, like especially the kids who are like, I don't want romance in my stories, are happy to stay in middle grade. And the parents, as soon as you say like, this is not about reading level, it's about content, they tend to calm down significantly.
And when it comes to content too, I always use like myself as an example. Like when they're like, oh, is this mature enough? I was like, well, I was kind of reading this at this age. Like I feel like when you read things in books, it leads you to much better like questions and whatever, and rather than like seeing it on TikTok and they're like, okay, give it to me. Like I would rather have my kid read about sex in this book than like see it on TikTok. So whatever.
So something that I experienced with that specific age group that can be difficult to find for, or that I get a lot of teenage boys that don't feel seen in the books that they see in our store. YA is booming right now. I think we have so many strong female characters, but I love that. But we get so many boys who are like, hey, I'm Dustin, I sports, I play video games, I don't read, I don't like to be a protagonist, I refuse. What do you guys do in that scenario?
Yeah, there's.
Yes, for sure, Kwame Alexander. But also, I mean, you have, you don't have to stick to the kids section. You can go to science fiction, you can go to fantasy, and familiarize yourself with your stock. Only carry things that you think are good. If you have a kid who really wants adventure books, then you can go to science fiction. I didn't read a lot of kids' books when I was young. I just only wanted to read horror, and so Stephen King was great, and stop after Night Shift or something like that. But also I-11, people think it's not necessarily kids. Wait until they're teenagers, but everyone should read I-11. What do we?
There are a lot of older series that are still out there. 20 years ago, that's what all the books were. So the landscape has only changed recently, which is great. But you can dip into backlist, and that's a ton of old books. It's about I'm Guy, I like video game. Oh no, I'm on a big whirlwind adventure. There's dragons and magic, or there's samurai or whatever. There's a ton of old series like that. I often sell Patrick Ness's Knife for Never Letting Go to Dustin because it's this is a book about a kid and he just gets thrown into the wilderness and he doesn't have anything but his dog, and this is how it I open it and they see all these short sentences and it's really simple and dig into backlist. This would be a great thing to email your publishers about. Do you have any? Are there any backlist titles that are doing? Any backlist titles that are doing really well? Go to this there's a session on the book selling market right now, and they'll probably talk about what boys that age are reading, because they have the data, or at least what they're into. So those are good tools.
That's some kids are weird and want to read nonfiction, and you can take them that way if you want
that
to.
quarantine trilogy, the one where they're stuck in a high school.
I can't say that I have.
That's the male lead character.
Michael Grant has another great male lead character series, the Gone series. If you need something for Dustin, that's a great book for that.
Goes so off the rails, it's incredible.
It's so wild. Yeah, it'll also introduce them to the concept of books can do anything. But nonfiction's huge. I sell a ton of World War II. They make a young reader's edition of every World War II book ever, and that is very popular. And I don't know, people have weird feelings about young readers editions, but it makes parents feel good, and it makes a kid who's I don't want to read a hard book feel like it's not going to be hard.
And the YA editions of those, when they label them 12 and up, it really means 10 or 14. Almost always. Because if they're 15 years old, they're just going to read the adult version. So when they do those, when you're who are we actually selling these YA editions to, it's often that 10 to 14 range. Depending on what the content is, of course, but most of the time.
One more question.
Well, it wasn't a question, it was more, I guess a suggestion would be to talk to the publishing reps, talk to the publishers. We have a local author here in North Carolina, and she did a wonderful dystopian trilogy, and the main character was, I use this as a great example, was a boy and a girl, who were older teens. But the publisher, when the hardcover came out, it was the most fantastic cover because it flipped. So on one side, you had the image of these silhouettes of these characters coming together like they were about to kiss. This was the era of the woman in the long flowing robes looking over her shoulder and running away. If you flipped the cover over, then it was the schematic of the spaceship they were on, so no teenage boy would feel bad carrying that book.
Rob Thomas, not Matchbox. The Veronica Mars guy, he wrote a book called Rats Saw God, and it's a really good book for dudes who don't want fantasy, or anybody who wants just like a deep angsty feelings book. Rats Saw God is great, and then Winger is also great. It has gay stuff in it, but like whatever, like screw that through. It's being recorded.
That's what I like to create on my school, is making the little groups. So when I don't like sports, that I find the sports books, and they all go in that group. And when I get those customers, I can pull up their voice, and they're all in.
The point of Winger is there's the intersectionality of sports, of heart, of identity, and so it ticks all these boxes that you can like sneak past the possibly the parent. We have 20 minutes left.
Oh my
This was a
God.
robust session. Do you guys want to do the role play, or do you want them to do the role play?
No, no,
Come on, I did one for you.
do it.
And then once they're done role playing, we'll have a few minutes for questions. But please make sure you swap social media numbers with some of these folks in the room. Like get your pals, get your friends, make these connections. Let's put them to work one last time.
Okay, I'll be a child.
You can swap the lines one or two.
I'm a parent.
We never mind.
There's two. There's an old team, there's a wonderful parent, and then there's one with this cover, this graphic novel. The other one, we've got active, we've got identity, we've got young teen, and then we've got doesn't believe in graphic novels.
This one?
Okay, good luck, guys. We're ready.
I'm already.
Parent come here. Bookseller try to share. We got to push to be parent.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kimi. Can I help find anything?
Yes, Polly here would love to pick out a book.
Cool. What are you reading, Paul?
He really likes Elephant Piggy a lot, but I'm feeling like maybe we should be doing something like a little more complex, a little more thoughtful.
Cool. What do you like to do, Paul? Do you play sports? Do you play video games?
Since there's no visual prop here, I'm holding up one of the Lego books that comes with the Lego mini figure.
Yeah.
Is this a chapter book?
Oh, actually, that is an activity book, but those are really fun though, because guess what? You get to build with it. It comes with Legos. Do you like that kind of thing?
Okay, but I'd really like for you to do like, we just like, a real.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of new Lego books that come out right over here. Did you read in school?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about these ones? These level readers. Do you recognize these? Cool. These are all about Legos. They all just came out. Like, what's your favorite Lego set? Do you those things?
I've already pulled all the books off the rack.
Yeah, those Jurassic Park ones are really cool. You like dinosaurs? Yeah. Yeah. There's also this one that just came out.
Is this a chapter book?
Yeah. I mean, there's one chapter books right after that too that you can read. They're in this section over here.
But does it have enough text?
So all these books are great because when as long as he's reading and he's really interested in these, then like he can move up to these chapter books that are next, and these are great. They have chapters, there's full text, and there's a full series there.
Okay, maybe you could pick one from each section, huh?
So Molly was the annoying parent. She did a great job. We have 16 minutes. If you want to keep asking questions, let's keep asking questions. Or
Absolutely.
yeah.
What?
Mine is a very logistical question of kids coming and not being gentle, with the inventory, and then the parents not asking if my case, very limited inventory that like if they wreck that book, that book is right. Exactly. So, any thoughts? Passive aggressive?
Oh, absolutely.
That does.
Ask them if you can hold it behind the counter for them. But yes, or, you know, a parent who is not paying attention to their kid is engrossed in something else. And so just very passive aggressively say, I think your kid really loves that book. I think it's a really good book. And then, you know, offer to set it with this, make a stack for them. How do we deal with kids who
Having things for them to play with in the store helps a lot. Like we have play tables, we're kids only, so we have like 7 play tables throughout the store that have toys on, like actual toys that they're intended to play with. There's a train table, we have a table that has magnetiles. We also have that air tubes thing from Factory Toys, which is incredible and everyone should have. But having those in areas where you want to make sure they're being slightly less destructive can be really good. Like we have a table in the board book section that specifically has like toddler age toys with the intention being they'll play with those instead of pulling every single book off the shelf. But also kids being able to physically touch the books matters, and it will increase your sales when they have access to things. Having things on kid level means that they can pick them out themselves and their parents are more likely to buy them. So, you know, making sure that it doesn't feel like a kid touching a book is like a no-no in your space is really important for being a welcoming space for kids.
Yeah, I mean, anything they can play with. We have a little train table, we have a little play kitchen. I won't speak on the broader situation with Melissa and Doug, but their doorbell house, I don't know what dark magic it possesses, but like every kid 0 to 4 will sit there and open the door like it is, like they're literally hypnotized. I don't know what it is, but you can just like put that somewhere where they can reach it and they will reach it.
Also on that, I take any damaged books that come from publishers, and I have a specific wall that kids know that if they go and rip them and break them and whatever, it's just, they're already damaged anyway, so it also gives kids access to that along with therapy. Yeah, also along with the toys and stuff, they can also feel those books, so.
And there are ways to correct kids damaging things in the store. Like, you're allowed to speak to the children that are in your store. I mean, you know, feel out the vibes with the parents, but in general, if there's a kid destroying something in the store, I'll be like, sweetie, can you pause? And then their parent notices that you are like talking to their kid and generally will be like, oh my gosh, and grab it. And if they don't, then I say, I need you to give me that so that it doesn't get messed up, and try to replace it with something that's more appropriate. The kids do have to like, that is part of the learning experience of being out in public, is knowing what's appropriate and what's not. And we are supposed to be community spaces, and part of that is interacting with the children in the space, which depending on your community can either be a really terrifying prospect or totally fine.
Oh no, can you help me put that back is a great phrase. Like, because a toddler wants to be helpful. And so it's like, if you make it their idea to be like, oh, thank you for helping me put that back. Sometimes that is very, like, instead of them freaking out when something's not in their hands anymore.
I just wanted to add that we have that issue with sticker books. So those sticker books are right next to the front counter. So if it's a sticker book, you see it, and you can easily go, oh, so let's not take the stickers out, okay. And then just like you were saying, Molly, that the parent then notices. So like putting those damageable books, sticker books, somewhere where the staff can see them.
Absolutely. It's, you know, organize your store in a way that makes sense. And, you know, respond to your customers as they tell you subtly, like what your store should look like. And, you know, if you have 4 of a thing, maybe only 1 needs to be on the floor at a time. Because you know it will get, you know, if you have books with felt flaps, they will get pulled out, you know. Wherever possible, make yourself a display copy. put a little sticker on it that says display. This is meant to be loved. Love it. And then buy a pristine one.
Another good use for your sales reps, they are generally very willing to send you like review copies that you can use as examples on your shelf. And like we tied up the other ones with a bow for things like pop-up books, so only the one that's the sample gets played with.
Yeah, you should always be responding to the stimuli of customers.
To piggyback on this, so how would you address a parent who don't get to that child on time and they do push reviews?
How expensive is it?
Especially as someone who doesn't want the competition.
This is fair. I don't make people buy things. I also had a child who was young once, and he ruined several things. And sometimes I bought them just so that I didn't have to deal with the shame of handing it to a person. But we don't make people buy things because kids mess up. We just talk to the parents, say, sometimes they hand over and they don't care, and then I'm angry at them, fuming. But I don't know. I let it go. It's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I try not to have anything that is expensive enough to like really like make you go, oh, where a kid can reach it. You know what I mean? Like his stuff has to be reachable, but it's like my sound making board books and my like stuff like that. But we don't usually make, a lot of times people will. That's really nice. Sometimes I'll just mark it down and put it in my sales section if it's like doesn't dramatically impact the readability and usability of the book, and then it's like, I'm still gonna be okay, but
Our official policy is that you have to buy items if your kids destroy them, but that's one of those areas where we get to look really nice for not making them do it, and they come back and love us even more. So officially, you would have to buy it, and we have, if someone's kid destroyed a lot of stuff, we have occasionally been like, this is $150 worth of merchandise that your kid destroyed while they're in here. You need to do something, but we try to work with them, like, if it's something where they destroyed a $100 thing and it's clear that they can't afford it, like, we'll take the hit on that, it's fine. Or if it's something where, like, we may give them a discount on it because it, we understand that this is, like, you didn't mean for your kid to destroy something and your kid didn't want to destroy it. But often any of that feels like generosity coming from us because our official policy is that you're supposed to pay for the item full price.
I was just going to add to that, in my store, I have a mobile bookstore, and it's pretty small in size. What we do is we have a bin of books that we use for story time, and that way if I see kids trying to grab at the books that I know can be damaged, I will hand them one of those books or lead them to that bin of books that they can handle. And then also we have a box or like a basket of pay what you can books, because some of the communities that I go to, the people are choosing between buying a book or buying some food, and so if the book is slightly damaged or scratched or something, I'll put it in that pay what you can. That way a person can look at it and say, is this too much damage for me to buy this? They can make the choice if they want to buy it or not, and then they can also pay what they have available in their budget. So it's not a total loss for me, and it's not a total loss for them.
So we at our bookstore get a lot of kids who are unsupervised. Normally between 10 and over, but our policy right now is if the kid is destructive or has a history of being destructive, then we require them to give us their parents' information before they enter the store. Do you guys have other ideas for how to deal with destructive kids when their parents aren't there?
I know every kid's parent. And even if I don't, I do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I will shamelessly look at a child I've never seen in my life and say, like, do I need to call your mother? It is very effective. They do not know. They're 10. That said, I do actually know a lot of them. And like there's like a whisper network of like, sometimes it'll be like, hey, I had 3 kids in my store today who did this. Anybody know who they were? And like, I have like 2 parents that I might text and be like, do you know who these kids are? And they might tell me. And then I like, know, okay, if this happens again, we have a problem.
Nothing strikes the fear into the heart of a preteen like you knowing their name without them telling you.
God, it's so, yes. The next time they come in, I do greet them by name. That is huge. Like, you do have to kind of follow through on that a little bit.
Hello, Daniel.
Yeah. Welcome back. It works.
This is a pretty general question, I guess, but so every time you're 15, there's going to be more, a little older than 14, or 14 range, comes into the store, chemical romance song starts playing in my head, like teenagers there, yeah. So I like having those conversations and trying to sell to teens themselves, where they're not quite the adults. How do we do that? So we talk a lot about the little kids. What's some advice for selling to teens who just stare at you, kind of do what you were talking about earlier? They've never seen their book, but they're there to buy. They're looking for something that they don't.
Just channel your inner Regina George.
So if you don't have.
Right. If you're me, you just hand them the books. You know, you just kind of like, you let them be. I mean, in my experience, I let them be uncommunicative. I have had great results with uncommunicative teens that I hand 3 books to, that I go like, this one's like this one's like this. I talk as little as possible. You know, I'm trying to match their energy. They look at them, they leave, they don't buy anything. But 2 weeks later, they come in and they buy one of those books. And that's like kind of all you can do, I feel like, with those, but maybe you guys have different experiences.
Well,
I'm not cool.
Some of them just want to punch and grunt at you. And it's okay. Just, you read the, you can't make them talk to you. I have a 15-year-old. I know that you can't make them talk to you. But, you grab as many disparate things as you can. I only have one set. I'm constantly making a fool of myself. And I feel like I'm way less threatening because of it. And I set the things on the table and, let them be. Because they do know what they want, I guess, kind of sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing selling to a 13-year-old as it is to sell to a 16-year-old. You just dial back the enthusiasm a little bit and act like you don't care if they buy a book. Yeah, and it is I know we are in the business we are all for-profit businesses and we have to sell books, but it is also, community engagement, and it's also making them feel safe. Just like teaching people to interact with books. And so if you go into, I just assume no teen has money, because I don't, and how could they? But so it's not actually about selling a book, it's about getting a kid excited about a book, and then maybe the sale comes later.
Yeah, I think that was more of what I was trying to ask.
Yeah, it is. I know the stakes are high and we can't make rent if we don't sell books, but pretend as though the stakes were low and you weren't constantly stressing about how the store was going to make a buck. Because on an interpersonal level, it doesn't, someone else will buy 2 books if you give a kid your time. And I believe in karma, so put it out there, please.
Hi, so this might be a more regional question in general, but back to parents with various phobias. The only thing that I really think of,
lately to like make sure that kids can have a safe space to come back to is maybe starting like a kids book club or something. And I wanted to know if there were other ideas like that to help make sure that they know that this is a safe space for them and that they can come back. And also, this might, like I said, be regional, but I'm wondering if there are any resources that are sort of in between, like, you're noticing that this child maybe isn't the safest in their environment, but it's not necessarily like you want to call CPS. There's got to be some sort of middle ground, like getting to know their teacher or something. I don't know. How do we provide the safest space possible?
All right. So I'm going to start at the beginning. Your displays, like, telegraph who you are. Absolutely, like, make sure you should not have any display in your store. I don't care how small it is that is just, books written by white dudes featuring white dudes. You just shouldn't, because you want to sell to everyone. You want everyone to feel comfortable in your store. If you don't make lists. You should, put out newsletters, make lists, tack things on the wall. Shelf talkers are great. Make sure that the books that you are facing out speak to the community you wish to serve. These are I don't know if anyone is a hiring manager, but hire people who represent the communities of the people you wish to serve. And because seeing it's all, we've taken all these visual cues. You see what books are on display. You see what staff are there. You see what they read. And you never have to talk to a person to know that you are. Ideally, you would never have to talk to a person to know you're safe in that space, because you can feel it. It's palpable. Please.
In terms of, we mentioned earlier, exchanging ARCs for reviews from the kids, them being they can come to you and get these free books and also write the reviews. Also, I've noticed that if you do handwritten shelf talkers, kids respond well to seeing a handwritten shelf talker by another kid, and they are more likely to pick that book up and read that review. Also, for the kids' book clubs, both my stores have tried them in different ways, and I feel like it's most successful when you engage a community partner. So we right now have a local author that runs the middle grade book club, a middle grade author, so the kids have seen her come to their school before and so they know who she is, or a librarian or a teacher, someone else who's willing to work with you, because that will bring in the most people because they have their own networks to bring them in, and then also you have to do less work.
Yeah.
Part of that question, which is a hard thing to address. It depending on how many school districts you serve, you could call counseling, because you are not a social worker. And if you have a background in social worker, please do the next best thing for that. But you could contact the school district. One of the things that I have found, I worked at a really affluent community and neglected many different forms. And luckily the community was walkable, and they just moved, they can be there and be safe. That's not the best answer, but I would say no school districts, no, you kind of gauge what age they are. If any teacher contacts, reach out to them. Because if you are worried about child safety or their emotional well-being, and you can't talk to their parent, a school contact might be the best.
And librarians are really good for that because they tend to see all of the kids on some level, whereas sometimes the teachers will only be in one grade, they may not even know the student. Those librarians, if they have them in their school.
Yeah, my wife spent some time in a library, and libraries often serve that function as well. There's only so much you can do as a retail employee. You just have to kind of get to know your community, know what resources are in your community, and know what you can do as just a person who's met the child, right? there's only so much you can do. Fortunately, I have not had to deal with like kids who are like dramatically unsafe or very obviously unsafe in any way. But like, yeah, one time a parent sent their kid down to our store, and then like 2 hours later, we were like, "Where's this parent?" and we had to go get them, and be like, "Hey," but you just get to know your community. Libraries are a great place for that. They often serve that function.
And if you, sorry, please.
I'm sorry, we all
I
have.
was just gonna say, like, if you have a relationship with the kid, like if they come in and they feel safe with you, like that's incredible. And if you have the bandwidth to like be a consistent presence in a kid's life that can be there and with no pressure, just be there to be like, I am a safe space, you can come in, you can talk to me, you can sit in that chair over there and ignore me, whatever is totally fine. Like that's a really powerful presence in a kid's life. Like you don't always have to like do something to make it better. Sometimes just sort of having someone who's consistently okay.
We are truly out of time.
One last thing, if you just print a flyer with numbers on it and put it in a place that people can see. So, if there's a local domestic violence or, number that you can call for all sorts of troubles, and just put it in a very visual place, so that people know that there's help out there. It's important.
Thank you everyone for sitting for 2 hours.
Thank you all.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!